What's up? It's Tom, and we saw the Twins add 3 players to their 40-man roster in order to protect them from the Rule 5 draft. That is a big decision point in the offseason. The next one is the non-tender deadline. That is December 2nd, and believe it or not, that's less than 2 weeks away. If you're like me and you're having a hard time keeping track of where we are in the calendar these days, 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks until that deadline. We are going to figure out what's going on with Eddie Rosario. There is a number. There is a number in which makes sense for both of these sides to come to an agreement. Now, whether they get there or not, I would say it's highly unlikely that they get there. The kind of the way that most of the conversations are being framed up to this point is, well, the Twins aren't going to want to pay Eddie Rosario his projected arbitration number. Well, who's to say that Eddie Rosario and his agency won't be willing to accept a contract for, at either the low end or maybe even a little bit less than that projected arbitration salary? 3 reasons why I think that there is an opportunity for that to happen. Number one, if Eddie Rosario's agency sort of takes a look and thinks about, well, what do we expect him to potentially make on the open market? And if they come away thinking maybe 6 or 7 million, and also think that on the downside, if things go poorly, it could slide back to 4 or 5 million, then you can see a scenario right there in which they would be willing to, engage in negotiations around 8 million, which would be on the lower end of those projected salaries for Rosario. Number 2 in that same conversation would be if Eddie Rosario, and we don't know these things for sure, if Eddie Rosario really just loves playing with the Twins, playing for Rocco Baldelli, and wants to come back, he's not interested in maybe getting a new team. And then number 3, on top of that, he feels like he's on the verge of a breakout and would like to stay in a situation that's comfortable to him and thinks that that is his best opportunity to put together that big season, that big 2021 season that proves his worth and then gets him into the free agent market after a plus season. Because to be fair, he did for the first time really show that he was able to take walks in 2020. That was a big development for him this season. What kind of held his numbers back was his batting average on balls in play was very low. I believe it was the lowest of his entire career. So, I mean, you can see some logic in that line of thinking if you're Eddie Rosario. Like if I'm Eddie Rosario, I'm thinking like, man, if I had a 162 game season, I might have had a breakout. I was working on some stuff. I was trying to develop some things and I just ran out of time and I had bad luck with the BABIP. That was going to even itself out. So, and again, back to the staying with Minnesota thing. I mean, Rocco Baldelli's hit this guy cleanup for so much of his tenure in Minnesota so far, these 2 years, Rocco Baldelli, that he's going to be playing Eddie Rosario. Most of the guys nipping at his heels in the minor league system are also left-handed hitters other than Brent Rooker. So it's not like there's like a natural platoon partner that's going to take at-bats away from Eddie Rosario. As long as he does his thing, as long as he performs, I think there's a chance. I think there's a chance that that's how things go. Now, if we get to December 2nd and they don't have an agreement, I don't think there's any way the Twins tender him a contract and take that sort of unknown risk of going into an arbitration and potentially going to a hearing where Eddie Rosario and his camp are asking for $10+ million. I don't think the Twins want anything to do with that. So I don't think that they would sort of tender him a contract in the traditional sense of how this goes. But I think between now and December 2nd, it would not surprise me at all if these sort of conversations are happening and the Twins and Eddie Rosario are trying to figure out, what is that number? What is Eddie Rosario worth? We can talk about those projections and say he's not worth that. He's not worth that. But what if that's not what he's looking for? Then those projections don't weigh anything into this conversation. So, just something to consider on that. And I just want to mention, too, regarding the players added to the 40-man roster, on this channel, there are highlight videos of all those guys, Jordan Balazovic, Ben Rortvedt, and Bailey Ober. I will link to those in the description if you want to see those guys, get a look at them and how they look on the field. But other than that, just want to mention that real quick. Again, if you're interested in kind of more, I throw out some comparable players. I go through those projections and talk about a guy on the free agent market I think is comparable to Rosie and why his agency should maybe not be so keen to hit the open market, and then I brought up a couple of arbitration salaries in which that maybe suggest that some of those numbers are a little bit outlandish. But the really key thing to keep in mind here as well is nobody really knows how the 60-game season is going to be accounted for in these arbitration cases yet. So that's sort of the X factor as well. But thanks for checking this out. This has been Tom. Again, we'll talk again soon.